In the world of professional cooking, a few stand out as household names for their amazing experience, knowledge, and funny moments on television. In Sri Lanka, several chefs have stood out for taking the nation to new heights. This week, someone significant in the world of professional cooking arrived in Sri Lanka to partner up with Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts to take part in a special culinary extravaganza from November 30th to December 2nd. For fans of the hit culinary show MasterChef Australia, the name Gary Mehigan needs no introduction. From humble beginnings as a teenager aspiring to be an engineer to a successful career as a restaurateur and appearances on various cooking shows, the British-Australian celebrity chef has become a household name today. We got a chance to sit down with him for several minutes to pick the brain of this culinary wizard. Turns out Chef Mehigan is exactly the person you see on television. Smart, witty, and most importantly, humble. Chef, I always wanted to ask this question as a fan of MasterChef Australia. I'm pretty sure you're tired of getting these questions. Why do you use both the egg white and the egg yolk when making mayonnaise? Because so many other recipes and chefs would suggest the audience to use only the egg yolks.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they're both, egg is an amazing thing. It's an emulsifier, it's an aerator, adds structure, flavor, all sorts of things. And yeah, my traditional recipe, 3 egg yolks, spoonful of mustard, salt, pepper, vinegar, whisk in the oil as an emulsion because it's an emulsifier. But the egg white actually adds lightness to the mayonnaise. So you can add a lot of oil. You end up with a really white mayonnaise versus a yellow mayonnaise because of the egg yolks, and it holds a lot of oil. So you get quite a neutral base, which I find delicious. So then it's thick, it's neutral, and you can add other flavors. When you go out and you get like sriracha mayonnaise or wasabi mayonnaise, all these different flavors, it allows you to add that.
So there's no difference in taste?
It's more neutral. Egg yolk has got a very strong flavour. So if you make a pure egg yolk mayonnaise, it will always taste eggy. So if you use the whole egg, you'll still be able to add lots of oil, but you'll have a more neutral mayonnaise. And why throw the egg white away? What are you going to do with it?
Chef, thank you so much for giving us your time to conduct this interview. You landed on Monday, right?
Yes.
And you said at the airport that you will be exploring some Sri Lankan ingredients, specifically spices.
Seafood,
yeah,
definitely.
And I just want to know what your plans are with our Sri Lankan lagoon crab as well. How are you going to incorporate these ingredients to your dishes?
Well, first up, I'm not doing Sri Lankan flavors dishes. I wouldn't dare try and make Sri Lankan dishes for a Sri Lankan audience. It would be ridiculous. So people are coming to these dinners to eat my food. The menu I've put together is food that I love to eat. It's tasty, it's delicious, it's generous, and it's I'm classically French trained. So that's my background. I worked in one of the best, classic French haute cuisine restaurants in London, back in the 80s, called the Connaught, under a guy called Michel Bourdin. And when I started there, it was 2 Michelin Stars, then a Michelin Star, and then I went on from there to work at Le Soufflé. And so it's always been, which is another Michelin Star restaurant, so it's always been in that kind of vein. And then when I moved to Australia, we're exposed to so much, particularly Southeast Asia. We love Thai flavors, Vietnamese flavors, Japanese flavors, Indian flavors. So my food's changed, but in essence, it's still, French culinary technique at its heart. So you asked me about the crab. That's not French. That's more of what I've learned since. So Thai flavors, creamy coconut, chili, fresh ingredients like the Nelna mango, which we're using here, the lagoon crab, crispy fish, which is a Thai preparation, which is cooked in the wok in oil, so you just get this kind of crisp texture. But then the lamb, for example, is slow cooked, 56 degrees, 12 hours, roasted with ras halanou, which is a spice mixture, Moroccan or North African spice mixture. So it's, yeah.
I'll get back to the Michelin Star.
Delicious.
Yeah, I was told by Cinnamon staff that you attended a dinner last night.
Yeah.
With
some
the
Sri
Australian.
Did
you get a chance to eat some Sri Lankan food?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you like it?
Delicious. And I've had Sri Lankan dishes before, obviously. I've got Sri Lankan friends and chef friends. But, to put it, I suppose, the best way to put it, until you've visited a place, then you don't have an understanding of the cuisine. That's why you travel. You might have eaten sushi everywhere in the world, but unless you go to Japan, you're never really going to experience the very best of it. So that's what I'm looking forward to in Sri Lanka. I mean, I'm setting up the dinners. You know, a lot of work goes into these events. I mean, Cinnamon, I couldn't have come here unless Cinnamon, you know, were the weighty kind of sponsor that they are, so that they bring top chefs over. So my focus is on delivering those events, making sure they run well, making sure people have a great time, they get an insight into what I do, feed them my food, and then at the same time, kind of taste local, take a holiday at the end to really kind of, you know, get a snapshot of the country. So yeah, I went to a local market this morning, checked out all the local fruit and vegetables, local seafood. I'm digging my spoon in to every little dish I can find in the kitchen. You know, somebody's cooking something, I'm like, what's that? What's this? What does that go with? So yeah, maybe in 10 days' time I'll be able to tell you 30 dishes that I loved. But right now, you know, there's a 3 or 4 that I know and that I've tasted and I like.
I can talk to you about cooking for hours,
Forever.
but yeah, but let's just take a different note. In Sri Lanka, social media has changed cooking. According to the YouTube algorithm, most watched videos are either cooking or comedy, mostly cooking.
Yeah.
But you are someone who has been a part of many renowned productions, television productions,
Yeah.
and you have worked with social media in a certain sense. Now, what I'm asking is, there are career chefs who have been working for more than 30 years, fed more than thousands of mouths. Yet they could be more known to the masses, but they're not. But there are young people who make TikTok videos about cooking.
How do I feel about
that? And people think they are chefs and they can cook. And it could be true, but what I'm asking is, how has social media impacted this industry of cooking?
Well, number one, there's always a difference between a cook and a chef. You know, I'm still a cook, but also I'm a chef. A chef actually means manager in French. You know, chef de cuisine means manager of a kitchen. Chef de rang is manager of a section. You know, chef de partie, manager of a part. So essentially that's what it is. So the difference between an amateur and a chef is probably, doesn't mean that cooking is better. Like actually an amateur cook, you know, like Master Chef, some of the cooking is some of the most delicious food you've ever eaten in your life. But could they take that dish and, you know, there's a wedding going on, as you can hear. Could they take that dish and feed 300 people? No. That's really the main difference. A chef has many skills, you know, management skills, you know, production skills, you know, born mostly out of mastering technique, you know, repeating something over and over again. It's fine. You know, at home I can make, you know, 1 dish of pasta or 4 dishes of pasta. At work I've got to make hundreds. It's a very different way of looking at things. So that's the first thing. Some chefs might get upset that, you know, an amateur or an enthusiast gets more recognition than them. And I
think that's fair.
And no, I don't think it is fair. I think you should follow the joy in your life. You know, whatever makes you happy. Some people don't want to be in the limelight. Some people just relish the craft, relish the art, enjoy what they do. And just because you see people being popular and getting what is really quite shallow kind of recognition most of the time, I don't think that's something to aspire to. If it's what you want to do, great, because there are people that have made careers out of Instagram, TikTok, making funny videos about how to peel garlic and how to make a quick something else. But you know, I don't have a problem with it. I think for me, what social media has done for us as an industry, it's a free-flowing transfer of information, and it can be an 8-second swipe, or it can be a deeper dive on YouTube where you can really share information, exchange information, and learn. Like, you know, I've got 800 recipe books in my house. It's quicker to look on YouTube for a recipe for lamprey than it is to find a book on Sri Lankan cuisine. So it's, you know, it's horses for courses. I love it. I love social media. And I think it plays a part, and it's going to change. In 5 years' time, we won't recognise it. So who knows what it's going to be.
You are someone who's kind of associated with Michelin Star
Sure.
restaurants, and you know
I know
what
good
it's-
food.
Yeah, obviously. But like technical-wise and sort of metaphorical-wise as well, if you can give me an answer to this question, like what does it take to get one?
Total commitment, undying focus, you know, like it really is. It's not an easy thing. I mean, Michelin is just one of many guides, and it's not the be-all and end-all either of, you know, a chef's career or even determine its success. It can do, obviously. But also Michelin has been guilty in the past of being a French-leaning guide. It's essentially French, and so even though it's spread its tentacles around the world, certainly early on as it stepped out of French territory, it would always be looking for a French trail of cuisine. So if you're a Japanese restaurant, at the beginning it was hard for Michelin to judge that on its own merits being of its place. Now it's different, and it's something certainly that's well respected. But then so is top 50 restaurants. Gort Mio is another guide. In Australia we have the Age Good Food Guide. So there are many platforms, and now social media has democratized reviewing, has democratized how we pick and choose our restaurants. We look at pictures of on Instagram if you own a restaurant, you plaster loads of pictures of your food. People look at that first before they go to a guide. But if you want to be the best at what you do, which is really what's behind that question, it requires dedication, commitment to the craft, delivery of excellence, and that's not easy to do. That means that everything in that restaurant has to be as close to perfect as it can be. And it never is perfect, but that's the goal. It's how you meet and greet. It's everything from the first phone call, or how you deal with the booking, the meet and greet at the door, the smile on somebody's face, how you feel when you sit down at the table. Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel at home? The first contact with, say, the wine waiter or the wine service person or the food service. And then every dish that you have, obviously, has to look amazing and be delicious. And it's one of those things that at the end of the meal, you should feel like $1 million. You should leave that restaurant feeling like you've been treated like a king. They're the best places to go to. But to achieve that is a lot of hard work. That's a lot of commitment to the cause. It's about, putting ideas up and drawing circles around and putting, having your kind of 10 golden rules that, you stick to as a business. So yeah, and it's hard to maintain. I spoke to a chef recently that has had a Michelin star for a number of years, missed out this year on getting his second star. They'd worked so hard to get it, and he's devastated. Yeah, because it means you put so much of yourself in, to get that accolade. And I just said to him, don't lose the joy of cooking just because you're chasing this, pat on the back, because that's what it is. And as a chef, I think if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're not being true to yourself, and you're not cooking what you love. And then I think people can see that, and they don't often enjoy what you're doing. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Chef, thank you so much for giving us your time.
Pleasure.
Before you go,
we could talk for a long time.
Yeah. Before you go, I want to ask you these rapid fire questions.
Go.
Yeah?
Go.
Champagne or martini?
Martini.
Benedict Cumberbatch or Bradley Cooper?
Brad Cooper.
Okay. Food on a skewer or food on a tiny spoon?
Oh, food on a skewer. But a big skewer, proper skewer, not some tiny little skewer.
Chocolate pudding or vanilla creme brulee?
Oh, creme brulee.
Dine in the village of How to Train Your Dragon or at the Grand Budapest Hotel?
Grand Budapest Hotel.
You love the movie? Butter or olive oil?
Oh, that's a tough butter. I was going to say that's tough, and I just said butter.
Baked or fried?
Depends. Want fried, should have baked. Baked.
Lobster or steak?
Steak.
And this is quite a tough question. Gordon Ramsay or Jamie Oliver?
Whoa! That's that's a tough one. Yeah.
The first.
I'll go Jamie. I like Jamie. He's a nice guy. That means I like you, Gordon, too. I mean, you're lovely too, but
Yeah,
I
work
don't
with
know.
him.
Jamie's every day. Jamie's every day. And he's got such a big fan base. And I think maybe because my wife likes him, then I'll go Jamie.
Thank you, Chef. Thank you
Cheers.
so much.
Pleasure.
Cooking is a life skill that everyone should know a thing or two about. But for some, it's an art. For many culinary students in Sri Lanka, Chef Mehigan's career could be an inspiration in thriving in the world of cooking. Sanitha Senanayaka, News First, Colombo.